Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we're looking at In Defense of Plants, an exploration into the wonder of plants by Matt Candeias. Matt is a PhD in ecology, and his work focused on the dynamics of plant distributions in their ecological communities. He also runs a podcast on botany, also called In Defense of Plants. I'd never heard this podcast before. Have you guys heard this? I just want to visit and thank him for writing this book. In Defense of Plants was just the book that I was hoping it was going to be. In the first couple chapters, it's more about Matt's experiences and how he developed a love for plants and ecology, but then the rest of the book just shifts into this descriptive writing about plants, along with the theme of Matt being fascinated by all of the aspects of plants that he's sharing in each chapter, and they are pretty fascinating. So I think it's set up really nicely, letting the reader know that there's this huge subject that a lot of people love very much. Then he goes on to explain some of the things that make this subject so interesting. But I love that shift from narrative to descriptive writing. This is all laid out so that each of the 8 chapters covers a different aspect of how plants live. We have plant reproduction, plant movement, self defense in plants, parasitism, things like that. And he fills each chapter with examples of these different evolutionary strategies. One of the recurring themes you'll notice in this book is ecology as an overall system, how the plants are interacting with each other and the other life in the area. Much like humans and our neighbors and our communities, for better or worse, we have an effect on each other. And in the plant world of reproduction and survival, this makes for some pretty fascinating interactions, like how different plants use different insects or even animals to achieve pollination. This book provides many examples of this, most I had never heard before. Like, for example, bats that pollinate the sea bean plant, which evolved a certain shape of petal, which bat sonar is particularly sensitive to, and after the flower has been visited by a bat, the petal's shape changes, so bats can tell from a distance to find some other flower, and this encourages cross pollination and genetic diversity. Or there's plant chemical warfare with plants like the sandhill rosemary, a shrub which, when its leaves drop to the ground, growth inhibitors are released into the soil that prevent the growth of would-be competitors. Or if you're interested in carnivorous plants, there's an entire chapter on that. And it's really nice hearing all this stuff from someone who's obviously very well educated on this subject. You're definitely going to learn a lot of interesting stuff reading this book. And besides that, the author addresses why it's important to care or have some interest in the plant kingdom, namely where the energy our bodies use comes from. And it all starts as solar radiation, and plants are the primary producers, taking the sunlight and using it to make products that other life forms can then consume and turn into ATP, which powers the metabolic work that we animals do in our lives. And not to mention the fact that they produce oxygen as a byproduct of photolysis. So much of the complexity that has been able to evolve in living organisms all comes back to plants. So in a way, it's like we owe a lot to the plant kingdom. And like so many of these books about nature topics, by the end of the book, we get some advice on taking better care of our home environment and our fellow life forms, the plants. And I can appreciate that the author is using his book publication to further the cause of environmental stewardship. I won't really go into that here. I'm just reviewing Matt's book, but I will say that this message is something that I've seen in countless books. And the more that things like this are shared and repeated, the better, because, again, we depend an awful lot on the plant kingdom, as does the rest of the world. And as humans, we have a lot of power, a lot more power than other animals to make differences. This author also puts a big emphasis on native plants. Certain plants have evolved a kind of balance with the other life in a given area, and different outside species being brought in can seriously disrupt that balance for everything living there. And the results can be catastrophic because all of the life in any given area has been evolving together for so long. There's a kind of population equilibrium, but if we, say, introduce a new plant that doesn't play by the same rules as the current residents, it's possible that this new plant can outcompete every other plant in the local ecosystem and end up collapsing the food webs in that area. And the end result is a dramatic loss of biodiversity. But I enjoyed reading the author's thoughts on this issue, and I really just appreciated the evolutionary perspective of the information presented. It just seems that if we want to have a broader understanding of what's going on, this is a good approach. And to look at an ecological system for all the life living there, not just the ones that we feel are the most important. Even though I did enjoy this book, I felt like there was so much more that could have been said. Despite being almost 300 pages, this book could easily have gone on for many more chapters. As a matter of fact, this book is ripe for a part 2, where it could just be more of the same stuff, and it wouldn't be that hard to fill another book much like this one. Okay, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Do you know of any good books on the topics that we've discussed in this video? Have you guys heard this author's podcast? And if so, what did you think about it? And as always, I appreciate hearing you guys' thoughts in the comment section, so let us know. But if you're interested in ecology or just want to learn more about and have a deeper appreciation for the plant kingdom, check out In Defense of Plants by Matt Candeias.